Pod. Pod. Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the 22 Gram Pod podcast. In this episode, we're talking to lead singer of The View, Carl Falconer. The View were a band who came onto the scene in the latter part of the noughties, but really made an impact when their debut album, Hats Off to the Buskers, went in at number 1 in the album chart. Carl was able to join us in lockdown from his countryside home in Scotland, where he'd recently returned home from America. Yeah, how's it going, mate? How was lockdown you were in Scotland still?
Yeah, I was in LA. We were planning on living there for a bit, and then things got a bit scary over there. So, I had the 2 kids and that over there, so I was just like, fuck, and then had no health and no insurance or nothing. So it was just like a bit nuts. So we were just like, fuck, let's just get on a plane home and just stop it. We sold the house and that, I'd like to go over to LA, and it was just like, no, fuck, let's just get back.
So when did you come back then? What, you were there for like a bit of it?
Oh, yeah, I was there for like nearly 3 months, and then I was working on visas and that, and doing like just starting new stuff over there, doing music, and then it was just like, I was just like a bit mad. So I just thought it was best to come home. You know what I mean? Like, because at the time over there, like when you were going past and stuff, there was big queues for the gun shops and shit. So it was like, oh my god, we need to get out here, man. It was like, it wasn't the same as when you're over here when it's like they're running out of bog rolls. You know? It was a bit more extreme, you know.
Yeah, I never got the idea behind stockpiling guns. Don't get it.
Yeah, I think like it's like a sort of apocalyptic thing. I think people are just like, oh fuck, let's get ready to rumble. You know what I mean? Just in case it does kick off.
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? That is mad.
It's funny because there was some sort of craze going on in America where people were licking stuff in the shopping malls and stuff, like just going a bit like tonguing it, like to try and say that I'm not scared of it. And it's funny because you see how much it all changes, because I've got a few pals that were like, oh, I hope I catch it really quick just to fucking so I get a couple of weeks off of work, and then now it's like everyone's freaking out about it, and it's like, oh, it's serious. So, not I mean, like. But it's people have got different outlooks on it. Like some people are like not giving a shit, and other people are. You speak to some people, and they're like, "Oh, you can't come in my house. You'll never see me out in the daylight." But it's like they're vampires or something. You know what I mean? But like some people are taking it that are different. You know what I mean? But we're lucky. We're out and we've got gardening. You know what I mean? But when we first got here, because we had sold the house and that, we had no place to live. So we're in this fucking mad flat, right, on Airbnb, the only thing we can get, and it was like, shit, I need to get someplace sorted, but it was all good, I got it sorted.
Didn't you say you were, where are you living? Like, is it in the country a bit as well?
Yeah, I live out in the country, I was outside of Dundee. It's nice, like. It's funny, because like, shit changes like every like 3 months for me. Like, I'm always like, right, that's me, and then it's next minute, I'm like, whoop, that's me, then. So it's like, it's always changing.
What's it been like for writing songs and stuff? Do you find it's good time to get creative, kind of thing?
I kind of feel better. I've been writing loads anyway, because it's kind of like it's starting the new process. So I've kind of been ready to go for ages with the new album. But there's because I see every time that I get to a new thing, I always feel like something else happens. But recently, like, because I've got no pressure to release anything, I felt like I've just been sitting there and tunes are coming out, you know what I mean? I've been waking up and just putting new ditses down, and I've been like, oh, that's brilliant. So it feels good not to feel pressurised and having to do anything, because it's always been like that with a View and that as well. Like every album cycle, it's like, right, okay, shit, we need to go and do another album, bang, right, and then right, tour, and then chill for a couple of months, tour, and then and it's up and down like a yo-yo, so it's good I'm kind of enjoying having a wee break and spending time with kids. And because like the last year I'd done like a big stunt in Australia, and then I'd done America, and it was like I was away for the kids for a long time, and I was like, this is not good. So I was like, I need to get back to the good old View days with 2 big massive tour buses and fucking security and shit. Yeah, just bring the Bairns Wiz, but it's like it's hard, man. You know what I mean?
If we just kick off from the start, Kyle, like, can you just give us an idea of how you lads went from starting the band to getting a record deal?
So we were in a band. The first band we joined was when we all kind of became I was a year below the rest of the band in school, and we all kind of got obsessed. But we all lived in a place called Drybrook in Dundee, and we all got obsessed. We were all into Oasis, but then the Beatles it was like the Beatles craze, and we were all obsessed. And then everyone's haircuts, and then what we were dressing like changed drastically, and then there was like a school talent show, and the Irish dancers used to win it every year, and kind of was like the prize was like 30 quid, which was a lot of time with them, a lot of money at the time. And then it was like, fuck, we think of what we can get if we won that, kind of like. So we were like, let's go and we were just raging that the Irish dancers were winning it every year, so we went into it. And at the time, it was me, Webby, me, Kieran, Pete. We had a drummer called Ryan Brown, and we were playing like Beatles songs. We played like Get Back, and we played Money, the cover, the Motown cover to do, and we've done a Live Forever, Oasis, and just when on Steelers Wheels, done shit like that, and then we just had this rehearsal room, and there ended up being like nobody could play that well, but there was like 6 different people came to the room, and whoever was there first got like kind of was in the band, and that was us. So we're all like really close friends. So we all lived next to each other. So it was as soon as we got on the talent show and won it, we thought we were like the rock gods. Like going to be Dundee, starting our stuff. It was fucking class. And then we got 30 quid, won the talent show, bought some beers, and then we had this other like sort of rundown school. It was called the Driver School, and we used to go there and like just have sing songs, and that was when everyone got into drinking and that. We were like 14, 15, and then it was like then also the drugs and that started, and then it was like we were in a band for a while, and then we won the talent show the next year, I think, and then we stopped being in the band for a bit, and they went and got trades because they were a year above me, so I was still at school, and then I went to college for like a couple of weeks, and then we says I remember what happened because the band hadn't spoken ages. We were called Kyle and the Casuals, and then we were called Lost Weekend. Then at one point we were called Surreal. We played somebody's wedding one time as a band called the Surreal. And it was like every time Pete's dad used to say to me, like, he says, so you've got to go, we've been great, you've been surreal. No, you've been great, you've been surreal. And I was like, no fucking way I'm saying that. And he's like, you've got to say it, come on. He says, I've just drove you all the way to this gig and I brought you beers and that. I was like, no, I'm not saying it. So and Pete would go, Pete, you've got a mic in front of you, say it's your dad. And you go, I'm not fucking saying it. So I go, oh, fuck. He'd be like, you've been great, we've been surreal. Seriously. So, and anyway, but it was, but we hadn't spoken in ages, and I think they went away and joined another band called Kashmir, which they done the talent show and it was shite, but they weren't even at the school, but I was like, that's garbage. And then, like we were all like, but we met back up at my dad's funeral when we were 16, and then we went. It was kind of a sad day, but we all got a drink together again. And I was like, oh, how was it? It was like they were kind of older. I was like, oh, he's working in that. It was a bit weird, so it was cool. And then we were like, I was like, my cousin's got a pub called the Bayview. He says we could rehearse in it. Why don't we go and do it? And then I says, I've got a few originals, and Webby was like, I've got a few originals too. And then we went into rehearsal, and we done like Street Lights, Coming Down, Claudia, and Screaming and Shouting, and something like that. It was 4 songs or something. Then we started playing gigs, and then, but within like 3 months, we'd got signed because Pete Doherty was playing in the Fat Sam's in Dundee, and he was like, they were playing, and I remember we gave him a CD. Kieran went on the bus with him, and then like a few weeks later, the manager was like, James Endicott's on the phone trying to sign you guys. I was like, no fucking way, I've just finished reading that Liberty's book, that's crazy. And yeah, and then we got signed, and that was it, man. It was like, but I think at the time when we got signed, we didn't realise that how serious it was. I was young as fuck. I was like, I think we got signed before I was 18. So I was like, I never knew what was going on. Do you know what I mean? There was money all over the place, and it was like, but I was still living with my mum, and even back then, you had a lot of money, but we never took the money. Do you know what I mean? It lived in a pot. So like, we would have like, we got like a few hundred quid a week, and it was like, but even though we probably had shit tons in the bank, we never took it. So it was a bit of a weird one. Like, even though we were all probably rich, we still lived off our wage. So it was like, because we were managed and we're still kind of young kids, we weren't aware what was going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, do you know what? It's very, very similar to us. That like we used to, our accountant or management or our mums, like we all lived with our mums at the time as well, and it all just stayed in a pot, and we used to, the advance just, you had to keep hold of it a little bit because that's what you had to live off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's literally, it's like, it's almost exactly the same story as well. Like, especially with us, with the relationship with Pete, he basically helped us. He helped us so much. Like, to the point of us getting signed as well at the end of the day.
I mean, it was mad times. I mean, I remember seeing you guys like loads of times and thinking. I remember when we drove through Edinburgh, I got a big bus to see you guys, and it was like I remember like watching.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thinking, yeah, it was mental. But I remember like I'd seen bands at this time, but I hadn't seen anything like that, and that was when the whole Libertines thing was going on. And I remember thinking that like I wanted to be in that band, like seeing the sweat and like fucking how no one was giving a shit, and it was just like it was like the Clash to me. I was like, oh my god, that's brilliant. Because at the time when we were playing, we hadn't really done a lot of gigs, so we kind of, you know what I mean? There was just something in the air at that time, like that people were just fucking like lawless. You know what I mean? It was just mental. It's crazy.
Yeah, the vibe like everywhere was just like insane. I vaguely remember like you boys like hanging around at that time, like in Scotland. I don't remember a lot of it, but you know, I do remember like meeting you lot, and then a bit later on down the road, it was just like you were out and you'd got your band sorted and all that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's mad, man. I mean, it's not, I think all that stuff is like all the bands like them days. I remember like so we were a bit in like these must have been what 2004 years or what?
Yeah,
2005.
Yeah, must have been 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, like because I remember like thinking this shit is mental. Like all the bands and that they were out, it was great. There was something in there, and then by the time like 2011 came, like there was bands like the vaccines and stuff. It all changed. It all got a bit clean, and everything started getting recorded on laptops, and it's like everyone like, in dressing rooms there was people on computers rather than drinking beer, and it was like, what's going on? It was like I remember feeling quite offended by it. Like I'd go into rooms and I'd be like, what's going on here? And people would go, I'm just chilling. And then people start reading books on the bus and shit. And I'm like, what's going on? And then, I mean, I'm just kind of now kind of getting to that stage where I'm like, I might go and read a book. And I've read like 4 books in my life, but like, but sometimes I think like I'm just kind of feeling like that now. But I remember back in the day, that was offensive if anything like that was going on. Like, you were just like, I was taken aback if anything like that wasn't a fucking, whatever you call rock and roll, do you know what I mean? But you kind of get addicted to it. You're like, you just love that, the whole thing, and the dressing room being mobbed and everyone just being fucking off it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like every day was pretty much the same, wasn't it, when you were on tour? It was like, right, you get to the dressing room, you find your rider, and then it starts again. You've had a couple of hours tipped in the van, and that's about it. And then it's just like, you crack on with the next venue or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's great. I mean, but see, like when we were touring, I mean, like when I got to like 2000 maybe 11, 12, maybe 12, like the alcohol kind of started getting me more fucked up, and I was doing more drugs, and then. But the bevy, like I used to get the anxiety. I used to get. See, when we drive up to the venue, like I was too scared to even. No, because I was nervous. It was like because I'd been bevying too much. Like I would like start to. I would start boking, like vomiting, like but the dry heaving just whenever I got to the venue, and it was like a routine I got in there. I was just like, this is too much, man. I kind of like I need to stop it. But like even on some days when I was drinking, like I'd have a day off, and then everyone would be getting wrecked, and you'd feel like out of place. Do you know what I mean? But then it was hard to kind of get grips of it because people were getting so fucked up. And I mean, I was the main culprit. We'd done a tour in America for 3 months, and I was drinking every day on this bus. We never got off the bus for one day. We were on no hotels ever, and it was fucking mental. I mean, I was heaving blood in it, and I was like, what is going on in my life? You know what I mean? Like, you need some guidance. You need a good tour manager, man. It's going to feed you proper meals and like fucking make sure shit's going down.
You also shared the same producer for your first albums, Kyle. Tom's told us a few stories about Owen Morris, bit of a madhead. Was he the same with you?
Yeah, fucking of course he was. Like, I mean, we don't really talk anymore. So,
all right.
I think it was maybe because I'd told some stories and he wasn't happy. But the last time we saw him was in 2012, or 20 whenever released our hits album, whatever it's called, 7 Year Setlist. And he was we recorded a few songs, and he was just as mad as ever. And then, but I mean, he lives in Edinburgh now.
Oh, right.
And he came to a few shows, but I mean, some of the shit we done on he's fucking hell, man. It was crazy. I mean, like it was just not some of the stuff you would, if you were to even mention it, people just didn't really. I was actually in LA recently. I was with this band called called Grisfolk, right? And they were all really cool dudes. And I was telling them a couple of stories, and I heard a guy next to him, like one of the band members, saying, that's totally made up. And I was like, what the fuck? Would you just say that's made up? I was like, it's not made up. I was telling him a story about us like paddling down the canal, the stream in Crickle and fucking Crickle, like to try and find a pub on an inflatable canoe. And then a guy came out with a shotgun and like burst it while I was in it and shot it, burst it, and I had to get Owens, but he didn't want to use any strength because he was so wasted. So I had to like paddle me and him in the one canoe, and then he started peeing. Both of us started peeing in the one canoe, and like this blow up canoe to try and keep warm. And it was like 5:30 in the morning. We were right down the aisle, so we were too far away like to turn back. And then eventually we realised that we were only in about four fucking inches of water. So we just got out and just like walked home, and the fucking and it was horrible, man. But there were bats kicking about and shit because it wasn't light yet. So I was running a bit from tree to tree trying to hide from the bats. And I ended up getting arrested, like, and then they searched me for drugs, and then they came back to the studio and the police turned over the whole place. It was mental, man. But I mean, some of the stuff is, that's what I'm saying. I don't even like to repeat some of the stuff because I'm not sure if you're even allowed. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it's on. It's like you can't tell that. It's like, well, I'm sorry.
Where was that? Where did you record that album?
We recorded the first album in Scarborough, and like this, we recorded the first album in a cow shed, and we rented all the gear because the James Endicott was saying there was no point putting him in the studio because we went to Brixton. What's that Brixton studio called again? I can't remember, but we went there, and somebody put their head through one of the windows because somebody sprayed fire extinguisher all over the place when we were having this party, and loads of people shagging and that, and like somebody fell at the bed like because like coughing, ran into the room and put their head through the window, but the window smashed, but just with a head-shaped hole. So like somebody was through the window and like couldn't get back out, so we had to smash the bits around them so they can get their head out. And then I remember James Endicott going, well, we're not putting you into another studio because that cost us, like, so there's a hole through the wall and like all the TVs were smashed in. It's stuff you do when you're a kid because you've read fucking shit about Mick Jagger and Keith Richards there, you know what I mean? So you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, like, exactly.
You're supposed to be doing, you know what I mean? Oh, fuck, I should be smashing the telly right now. You know what I mean? Like, but after that, they put us into this place and said, you can't cause any bother here. It was a farm. And we were rented loads of gear off this company called Tickle. And like, but Owen Morris and me just met him, but that was when we got introduced to. So at the time, we were doing the drugs we were doing. We were sharing like a gram of coke between like five of them. You know what I mean? That would do us. And then by the time we were going, all these people were doing like a quarter of coke a night. You know what I mean? And it was like fuck. Things changed and we had money in that, and then it was like shit. Yeah. And then even for us, that was a lot at the time. We were only kids. You know what I mean? So like. Then Pellet gun started getting involved with how you were taking your drugs and shitting them up your nose and then fucking hallucinating, like tripping balls, waking up in the middle of the woods, smashing Jaguars, like fucking mental. It's like Motley. But we used to listen to the new mixes driving Owen's car like as fast as we could.
Yeah, I was going to say,
rabbits.
Did he have a Jag then?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he had that. He had a Jag when we were with him. We ended up driving that somewhere as well.
Yeah, he kept on trying to force us to take a shot of it when we were pissed, and I was like, he was going, go and get some baby in the car. I was going, no fucking driver, I'm fucking away with it. And I can't even drive, but I can now. But at the time I couldn't. But yeah, we ended up going to that studio because James Endicott was saying there's no, like, don't put them to there because they'll get you, they'll ruin that last place, they'll never record it again. And we ended up getting back here anyway. But they ended up, I remember one day the police shut the door and we were like, everyone was fucking sparkled, like just got to sleep. And then the police line got up, like everyone were like at the thing, like we were getting interrogated and like people says, right, who damaged the taxi? And we were like, what fucking taxi is this guy on about? We all went to a strip club the night before, but nobody could remember being there. And it was like the only strip club in Scarborough, and they're charging you like fucking 45 quid for a cheeky Vimto, and you're like, Jesus Christ, I'm getting ripped here. And we were just sitting there and the police are going, right, which one of you stole the taxi's plates and all this stuff and all the headrests and you stole his ashtray from the taxi? I was like, who's got an ashtray in their taxi? It might be 2006, but still, who's got an ashtray in their car? You know what I mean? But there was loads of mad shit going on, and then eventually like Mo stood forward and was like, we thought he was going to confess, and he was like, oh, I thought so, you're the sensible one at the lottery. Yeah. And we were like, fucking he's sensible, crazy Mo, like, he's got that name for a reason, he's got it tattooed across his chest. And they were like, he was like, no, I'm going to take the blame, sir, because none of these children are going to own up to it. And we were like, fuck, we never done it. So I think he actually did do it, but he was pretending it wasn't him. But then after the police came, we ended up loads of people, the whole like sort of farm came with their pitchforks outside and was like, you're not recording here anymore. And like, but they all like stood together to get it out. And we were like, fuck, there was only like 6 of us, maybe 7. And there was like 20 of them. And they came at night time, like with loads of forks and like whatever utensils you use in the farm, and we're like, you're not recording here anymore. So we had to pack our bags and leave the next day. And then, but that happened in Mono Valley on the second album with Owen Morris as well. Like one night we were recording a vocal, but Owen was like, "Oh, you need to get as high as you can to get more connected with the spirits to record this vocal." And I had this Sahari thing, and my face was painted black with this fucking mad shit. I was mental, and then they set the bench on fire. The bench was set on fire while I was on it. And it was like, but it was sprayed, so it was just staying in certain areas. It was like, fuck. And I felt like a Greek god, and I had these like fucking like these plants in my hair and shit. And honestly, I actually felt spiritual as fuck, but I was out my tits on ease. So it was just like I was tripping balls, and I was up so high, and like we got a nail gun and like fucking nailed this big bench to the wall. But Owen brought it in, so we were like, oh, that's cool, that's fine. And then the women who owned the studio came in. Fucking, and I was sitting there like they're meditating, singing my vocal while hanging mics from the roof, right, at like fucking 20 feet up in the air in Mono Valley Studios. And she came in and she went, "Oh, for fuck no!" She went, "That's my dad's bench. Oh, he just died. That's my daddy's bench. It's a memorial, you assholes." And it was on fire, and I'm sitting on it, right? But they're recording this bit, "Oh, righty then," vocal, and she just comes mental. And I was like, shit. I was like, Joe, sorry, man. I fell off. And it was like, so they ended up getting like fucking, she got a brother and loads of people she knew, and they all came up to the studio trying to pitchfork her out again. And I was like, oh, fuck, what's happened again, guys?
Fuck yeah, it sounds about right though. Definitely with Owen. He did exactly with me with vocals. With vocals, it was like, right, you get off your head now, and then we're going to start.
Yeah, he used to have weird techniques. He would like to try and make you laugh when it was dead serious, so that someone else would come out here. And then if you were, I mean, see on the first record when I'm singing, you could hear it like going. You could hear me like a lot of the words, like if you read the actual lyrics I wrote, but they're not right. It's like I say tight clenched wrist when it's like meant to be tight clenched wrist because I'm fucking away with it. Like we had these like ectos that were like blue speckled shark ease. And it was like we used to we'd do them every night, and it was like these speckle things, and everyone was tripping balls, like. And I was doing my vocal, just going like, and you could hear my jaw kind of like just. Like, but honestly, like some of the lyrics, I'm like, why? How did he not spot that up as a producer? And it's like, well, he's like, it went to fucking #1, didn't it? But why would you bring it up again?
Yeah, I was going to say, Kyle, like, comes out and it charts at #1, like. You lads must have been more than buzzing, really.
Yeah, we were, man. But I think by the time the album was out and stuff, it was one of these things where there was so much other stuff going on. I mean, like we were going to Japan and fucking America. And when that had happened, I think our family and that were more buzzing. It was more like we kind of thought, do you know what I mean? But stuff like getting put on the A-list and like on the radios and stuff, we didn't really know what that was. I mean, we were happy because we went to #1 because we got a big party in fucking Soho Members Club or whatever, and it was cool. And there's loads of cool people there, and we had like Primal Screen Boys and that, and it was like that was cool. But at the time, I think we were too young to understand. See now, like if I was to ever get, I mean nowadays, if you're getting played on the radio, your fucking manager phones you and tells you and shit. You know what I mean? You rave on the radio and whatever, and it's like, but then it was such a whirlwind. You know what I mean? There was so much shit going on that. Going to #1 was cool, but we'd already had hits on the radio, so that was like, I mean, it was fucking mega, do you know what I mean? But I think it would be good to be told like more about what's going on. Like somebody like from the record company calling me going, "Oh my god, you made the A-list, darling! I'm so proud." And you're like, "Oh, cheers, man! Where's the coke? Where's the coke?" It's like they're gonna fully describe like what's going down. It's all just fucking bread and circuses, you know what I mean? It's all just like fucking just pretend that just keep them happy with those fucking drugs, which we were. Keep them happy with the drugs and the fucking just give them what they want, give them a big tour bus, but then it's like, well, what's actually going down? Like, how much? I mean, see, nowadays, if we are playing, I remember we used to ask our manager and say, yeah, how much are we getting for that show? And he was like, wouldn't you like to know? And I'm like, what the fuck? And I would go, can I feel a bit like sort of, all right, okay, I'll just no ask again. And then you would ask, and you'd go, what the fuck? Why am I getting that wage? You go, well, it costs a lot of money to do this. I'm like, no, I didn't think so. We're playing like these shows every night, and we're just headlined all these festivals. Like, but even then, we were so happy with what we had. We wouldn't look into, you know what I mean? It's like nowadays, if you were playing these gigs, you'd be fucking get that paid in my bank account on Monday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You're a kid, man. You know what I mean?
At that young age, you just literally don't even know what's going on, and like money, the money side of it obviously didn't really matter. It was like, you know, we were the same. It was like, right, we're living a dream here, and we're just running around, getting off our heads, we're on tour, we're doing what we love, and you don't even think about the money side of it really. But like you said, now it would you'd be wondering like, right, what, I want a bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny now because you speak to people and like you speak to these new people like coming in. I do like we acoustic tours sometimes, kind of to get a bit of cash, and then you're like the people that support, they're so clued up. They're like, oh, I do my own. I don't even do my own Instagram. I don't do anything still. You know what I mean? I've got kids. I mean, I can't be looking at Instagram and shit. It's still, I appreciate people that do it now. You know what I mean? Even like 10 years ago on Instagram, I remember thinking this is all to shout, like, and now it's like you've kind of got to do it. But sorry, what was my subject? I've kind of went off the point there. What was I saying? Yeah. See, like back in the day with the money shit and that and everything, like even then, like it was like the gigs got in the way of even having a good time. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I started like I went too far. Do you know what I mean? I was like at the start I was really appreciating it, but it's like you go too far. Like it just touring every night and that, like for so long, it becomes like the drinking and that. Like that's what I would tell anybody. You know what I mean? You always see these like new bands and that, and always go, got advice, or people ask you on the radio, like, have you got some advice? And you're like, yes, fucking listen to your manager. Pick a good manager, listen to them, and like really take advice from people that are willing to give it, because it's like you're thinking, and it's fucking crazy. Like, see, the thing is, I don't really regret a lot of stuff, but like sometimes you need to go, like, shit, what would have happened if I never done that? Do you know what I mean? But I think everything does happen for a reason or that, you know what I mean?
Having said that, Kyle, like, you did manage to pretty much produce an album every 2 years. So, I mean, you managed to remain productive in that time, even though it was mental kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's because, I mean, we were doing that, but that was, I would have liked to have went a lot faster than that, do you know what I mean? But at the time, there's, I mean, I say it again, like the whole, back in the day, like the whole drinking and that was it took its toll on me, do you know what I mean? I went like fucking full on 360 cycle with, like proper turned into a cycle, you know what I mean? Like, and I look back then, like my thoughts, like thinking, like, you're playing like 3 nights at Shepherd's Bush and that, I'm getting steaming on the first night, doing a stand-up show after it. Kind of after we're playing, I'm going on and playing, like speaking like an absolute twat on the stage, going, fucking, do you want to hear me tell jokes? I'm like, that's the first night, do you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, see, now I'm fucking, like, to anyone listening, I am professional, just in case you think I'm that twat back in the day, right?
Did you feel a responsibility to do that, Kyle? Did you feel like people expected that of you, so you had to like bring the party kind of thing?
I kind of, yeah. I mean, like, it's kind of like I became a parody of myself, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, every place I was going, even if I went to a pub someplace, somebody was go, oh, there's that guy for the View going off from drugs, and I'd take it. So I mean, like, it's like, because I used to love that about fucking John Lennon, and know that he would do it. I mean, I loved all the stories and the Clash and Libertines and fucking Pardonings, and you know what I mean? Like, it was like, it was cool, but then it only took about 5 years till it kind of took its toll. And then even like back then, I always thought it was cool to kind of go back to Dundee and just go about with my old haunts and like go about with just people from any schemes and that. And it's like, now I think, like, I love doing that, but like I was at parties with fucking random people I've never even met, like in other areas of Dundee, you know, like that you can get fucking knocked out, you know what I mean? I'm like thinking I'm invincible, do you know what I mean? But like, just because, like, but you start feeling like that, and then I look back at some stuff and I'm thinking I wouldn't have got up to do any press for the radio wouldn't have got up to the end, and I'd dread stuff. And I was like, why the fuck? Like nowadays, I just love it all. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm fucking angel and I don't know, you know what I mean? But like just back then, it was like you don't know. I appreciate life more, and I feel like you have got to go through that shit. Do you know what I mean? If I never went to these fucking rehab places, I wouldn't have got my kids. You know what I mean? We weren't supposed to be shagging in the rehab place, but we got pregnant there. You know what I mean? So it's good. but like that was good. You know what I mean? So like that was like a fucking game changer. People always go, "Kids going to change your life," but it does. You don't know what I'm talking about, Tom.
Yeah, and Terry as well. He's new to it. But definitely, changed me a lot, man. And you know, you appreciate. I mean, I still like to get a bit fucked every now and again, but you know, you do chill out a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, I'm fucking right. And it's just like, it just makes you just think of the whole. But it's good, like you kind of had a decade of getting fucked up. You know what I mean? It's like it's still good. You know what I mean? But like there comes a time. Do you know what I mean? But even like with the View Boys and that, I mean, I was on FaceTime to Pete the other day, and I was like, he was pretty fucked up. I had a few beers, and we were like, and it felt like just like we were back in the room again. It was like I just got transported back into 2007, just telling jokes, and like it was like, oh my god!
Well,
like,
when was the last time you did anything like as a band, as you lot? Even just played in a room together.
Oh, like 2007, 2006, 2017 was. I'll be coming up for 3 years, but like that's a long time because we've been in each other's pockets for like in each other's faces for like 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that was, and before that, so the last record we released was 2015. So recorded that in 2014. So the last material we wrote was 2014. So that's fucking 6 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I mean, you must be pretty happy with how it's gone, Carl. Like getting 5 albums out in that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Kieran's a very he's more prolific than me. He's like I always try to be like the way that Kieran does it, because he'll kind of sit down and he'll go through he's like back in the day when I was writing. I always say back in the day. I sound like I'm fucking 63. I should put a wee back in the day voice. Like the way that Kieran used to do it, he would write like he would just be non-stop writing it all the time, and I kind of tried to be like that as well, because I was like I should be more consistent. And then, but then the way I do it is I just like kind of I'll just wake up and just if I'm not writing a song, it's fine. But then the majority of the days, someone comes to me and I'm like, shit, I'm like speeding back to the house so I can get it recorded. Like, but the majority of stuff is if it's not good, I just forget about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like if someone's like a wee twinkle in the back of my head, I could hear it. I always get them when I'm kind of sleeping, or just before I'm half asleep, or just before I'm about to wake up. And then it's like, do I take the extra 10 minutes that I've worked my arse off for doing the babysitting? Like we do like an hour each in the morning. So it's like, oh shit, you got up this morning. So I'm like, fucking, I've got this song in the morning. And I'm like, oh, should I get up and waste my time on? I'm like, oh, it might be shite, but it depends. You know what I mean? But I think songwriting, the loads of people do it different. I mean, when I was over in America, like a couple of times this last year, I mean, I've never really done it like that. I mean, me and Kieran can write together, but we would do the majority of stuff separately. And but when I was in America, it was like I was just going there. I was meeting these like sort of, a lot of people that I know through Matt Ronson and stuff, and like just my old pal Alex Greenwald and that, and we're just having just these writing sessions, and I've never really done it like that. And it was just like bang, coming to the room, and you're like, what are you feeling? What's on your mind? What's the process of that feeling? And I'm like, oh, this is annoying me a wee bit. She goes, okay, that's annoying. You speak about it. Fucking put it in a song. And I'm like, oh, baby, I could be your stressed out. I'm like, oh, shit, it worked. It fucking worked. So,
yeah, I was going to ask you about the collaboration with Mark Ronson. I remember really enjoying the bike song when it came out. How did all that come about?
Mark was a friend of mine, because when we first, I think he signed to Sony at the same time as The View, or that record collection, one before that, Versions, was out. So we always used to see him around the office and at the parties and stuff, so we became friends. And then we used to always talk about doing stuff. And then when Amy Winehouse didn't turn up one night for a show, And he phoned me and says, "Could you sing Valerie?" And I'm good friends with the Zootons and that. And I was like, "Well, I know Valerie really well." And he was like, "Well, come do it." Well, I done that, and then after that, he was like, "Oh, I've got a great response for it," and we kind of became really close after that. And then we were recording Bread and Circuses, our third album, and then he was like, he was in London, and he said, "I'm going to drive to Liverpool and see, I've got this song I want you to sing," but he wouldn't send me it. He was like, "I just want you to come here." So he drove to Liverpool, and then we recorded it, and that night in the studio. And it's funny because we toured that album for like maybe four years, like on and off. Like there was like sometimes it was 3 months at a time, sometimes it was a couple of weeks. But I do that in between with The View. And some of the stuff, it was like, and I was actually listening to that the other day when you listen to the full record, and it's like on the single version, it's just like the song just finishes, the big song, but then on the album version, I completely forgot it was like that. But it's like I'm doing this big thing at the end, going and he kept it on the album, like me just like going just like talking shit. And it goes on for like a minute, and I was like, "Why the fuck did he keep it on the album?" But he's like, "Oh, that's the best part. That's the best part." I was like, "The best part of what the song?" But he's like, "No," he's like, "Just because you were making no sense." But I thought, to me, you were making sense. No, he was like, to you, I thought you were making sense, so I was going to let it run. And then it turned out that it just sounded great. And I was like, if you listen to it, it does not sound great. It's pure nonsense. It's like gibberish at the end, and it just goes on, and it's so mixed. The song ends up going on for like 6 minutes because I'm just going, no, it's good. But yeah, so that's how that song came about. Yeah, but it was cool, man. I mean, I used to do that Rod Stewart song, like, "Every day I spend my time drinking wine." I used to do loads of stuff like that. It was cool.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, that was good times, yeah.
Skipping forward to your last album with The View, I saw that it's produced by Albert Hammond Jr. I mean, how was that? What was he like to work with?
He was brilliant, man. No, obviously, he's a massive fan in that, like the Strokes, but he was a lot of his dad's songs as well.
Oh yeah.
But he's that was really cool. I mean, we were recording it in Hamburg, and the reason we called the album Rope Walk is because Reaper Band means rope walk, so that's kind of where we recorded it, in the Reaper Band. That means German, so some shit like that. I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah, that was cool. We were there for about 5 weeks. We recorded in a place called Clouds Hill, which is a big, like, really cool German studio. And I mean, so it's weird because like some of the songs we had rehearsed for like 6 weeks before it, like every day. When we rehearse, we do it like, we've got this rule where we do like a five song joint. So you've got to get the song perfect 5 times. I didn't smoke weed, but the rest of the boys love it. And they're just Pete and them. But after 5 songs, you've got to. That's when you do. After 5 songs, getting them perfect, that's when you're allowed to go for the joint.
Right.
No, you've got to do the one song 5 times perfect. So it's the 5-song joint. But then, so we had been in rehearsal with them I think we had like 25 songs, and they were all perfect and like rehearsed up and ready to go. And Albert was supposed to be coming to meet us in Glasgow where we were doing it. We ended up not coming to do the pre-production, so but we went in blind. And then Albert had like listened to all these phone demos we had done, and he picked like 15 of them, which were none of the ones we had rehearsed, and he put them together in like all these different songs. We were like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" But at the time, we were kind of saying, "Look, we need to try something different here," so we all agreed to just go with it, even though we weren't really comfortable with it. But then, I mean, it sounds cool, man. I mean, there's a lot of songs that never made it that I've still got. That I'm like, "Oh shit, that would have been great on the album," but we just never done them because we just went with it. But it was a cool process. I mean, there wasn't a lot of drinking going on these sessions because.
Was that when he was getting sober as well?
Yeah, he was sober then. Yeah, so like we were sober, but we respected it. You know what I mean? So it was like,
yeah, of course.
But it was a good time. But you know what I mean? It was like, it was October, January, it was October or November or something. It was like, I ended up like being a bit depressing. You know what I mean? And then when you went out, it was dark. When you woke up, it was dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, but sorry, I was trying to side for a wee bit. Just checking. But I mean, it was a cool time. But I mean, I felt like a lot. I would have liked to. That's another one of these things. If you go back, you would like to take more control. Do you know what I mean? But that was just something that we just all agreed and said, "No, let's just go for it."
Yeah, it's quite interesting that he chose a completely different batch of songs to you.
Yeah, I mean,
and obviously that made the album something completely different to what you were expecting as well.
yeah, I mean, it made you think more because on one hand you're going, right, we've got Albert here, right? He's a fucking hero, and he's the guy from the Strokes everyone knows, apart from Julian, you know what I mean? But like everyone's like Albert Jr. He's like saying his name. He's so famous. He's cool as fuck. He's brilliant. So we were like, oh, he's a legend. Just fucking let's just do it. So the songs that we heard were like sounding fucking awesome. Like they were really good, and we'd been working on them so hard. And also our last record was the last two records were pretty not overproduced, but they were very big producers. That was like Mike Crossy and Youth, who are like fucking legends in the game. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that one was a total step back, and it was just. I mean, now I love it. I mean, I love it now, but at the time I didn't really like it. It was a bit like fucking, like even the songs, like they never had massive choruses, but people liked that about it. People kind of got good reviews rather than just getting whatever. You know what I mean? So it was a bit different. It was darker. It felt strange, but it felt underproduced, and it felt like that. I like to kind of have control. I've got a system where I write songs where it's like I don't know what it is, but I do it, and I always kind of churn out the same thing. But then once we get that, that's where the band kick in, and we kind of do this thing. And if the way Kieran writes songs, he's a bit more sort of erratic, which is great because I'm quite straightforward, and that's what gives it a good gel. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right,
I'm not straightforward, but I mean, I'm into different kind of music, and Kieran's into different kind of music, so we kind of put that together. Like, I love like proper like structure and like, you know what I mean, like. And Kieran likes songs where the verse will, like the Pogues, like some of the verses will go on for like 15 verses and stuff. And I'm like, how could you ever learn that? There's too many, you know what I mean? So I like stuff that I've been jamming since I was a kid, and that I could play again, do you know what I mean? And over and remember what it is. And
yeah.
So, yeah, but it wasn't. I remember we sat down and it was kind of he made the band kind of fall out a wee bit, because we were like all sitting there like in the room, and he was like, okay, here's my list of songs, and we'd already agreed to go along, and we were like, what is this, why is that on it? That's not even a song, that was just we sent him all our voice memos, right? And he was like, I like this, and we were like, well, that's not. It's like Marriage. I'd sent him this thing, Marriage, which was the first single I ended up being, and he was like, I love this, and I want you to go and write another part. And you've got to remember, like before, when we were with producers, we would have normally said, fuck off, I'm not doing that. Like, no way, you're not the writer. This is mess on.
Yeah, right.
We'd all totally agree just to say, no, let's just do it. So that was it.
With someone like Albert, I guess he's an idol, isn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, he's more like, compared to everyone else, he's more of a musician as well, so he kind of gets it. Do you know what I mean? It was also Gus Orberg who like done a few Strokes albums as well, so he was there like because Albert was just started producing albums, I think. So he was like a sort of the sound guy, and Albert was the idea guy, kind of thing. I think that's how it went. But it kind of made us like the few boys and that. We kind of. I remember one time where Kieran sung "Tenement Light" it was called, and like I remember thinking I had this idea for a middle eight, and we ended up being like. I came into the room and they were like, "Oh, we don't want to do that idea anymore." And I was like, "Boys, what the fuck?" And they kind of. I remember feeling like they were going against me. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of it. I remember feeling bullied, but like obviously I was just being up there twat. I mean, it was Kieran's song, but I was like demanding this bit in it. Like a big Pink Floyd breakdown after a pure rapid fucking 4/4 punk song. It was like it was mental. So like, I remember just thinking that like even now I'm like shit. Like, but that was what I made it do. There's a lot of songs where because a lot of words like me and Kieran's songs like never made it. Like we were like, well, why? It was kind of hard to swallow. Do you know what I mean? And listen to somebody else telling you what to do. But
right, yeah, of course,
just the way of it, yeah. But it was cool, man.
And obviously, you carried on making music, Kyle. Like, one thing we ask guests is like how they think it's changed for bands now, with like in terms of the impact of the internet and everything. Like, what changes have you seen? Do you think?
I mean, obviously, I was touching on it earlier on, but I think the way that people take control of their own things now, I think it's cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you look at Jerry Cinnamon, he's done all that shit without any labels or anything. And like, just, I mean, you got a lot of people telling you you're not going to make it. You know what I mean? So it's like you've got to just kind of like a lot of people keep going on the same circuit, doing the same thing. And I think by the internet, anything could just go bang. Anything could just take off. You know what I mean? It's fucking, what's it called? Trending. You could just trend to fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think like that it has become too systematical the way everything is. Like everything's like you've got to, and you get courses now on how to do shit. It's like, oh, I'm going on a weekend course to try and be a rock star. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people go to like songwriting courses and then they come back and then they go away to like a management course and then they go, I'm just managing myself now. Oh, but I'm still a rock star and all this. And you're like, well, it's kind. I think they're kind of missing the whole point of it. You know what I mean? But that's me being 32. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Nah, it's completely right there, isn't it? It's like, come on, that's not how it works, is it? Really?
Yeah, exactly, man. But people are doing it. Do you know what I mean? So, but I also think. I mean, Mac, I used to love going around to Kieran's and we'd get like a bottle of vodka and fucking get a joint and then end up getting fucking whatever later on, do you know what I mean? But we'd sit there and we'd have a laugh. But we wouldn't do it often, but when we had a song we were excited about it, when we still lived in Dundee, we'd go down to his and we'd get on it and that was like, fuck, yes, let's write a tune and get smashed and go out later and get pure fucked up. And then that was to me. I know that's not the thing anymore that attracts people to music, but that was what it did to us, and that's always going to be the attraction to me back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, just the craziness of it and the sweat boxing, and people going mental. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and obviously, I think as well, like then like the rock and roll thing in your head, where it's like drugs and booze and music back then, they went hand in hand. But like, I think nowadays as well, like, I don't think kids get as smashed as much either. I don't think like, younger kids, I don't think about going and getting smashed on a Friday night as much as we used to in our generation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
that's changed a bit, and I think that's changed.
Do you know why? I think it's probably changed so much because there's so much warnings about it, and it's like there's the internet which spreads everything. Do you know what I mean? So if someone was to get absolutely fucking leathered, like, and you're with your pals, you're all over the net. Like, I've seen them on Twitter, like people spewing in buckets, and they become a meme and shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not being a meme. I'm just going to have a wee Bud Light tonight. Do you know what I mean? That's me. That's my tipple for the night. A Bud Light. That's me. So like people are scared. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's something that's still to this day. I mean, people still tweet videos, and I have my Instagram lady. She sends me them. She's like, "Oh, because she's from America, so she's like, she doesn't know half of my history." And I remember it. And I'm like, "Fucking hell!" And it's like videos of me in tracksuits and fucking talking gibberish on acid on TV and shit. And I'm like, "Oh my god, that would not be accepted anymore. If you were on acid and you were on TV, they would pull the plug." So I was like, "Why would they let me talk?" You know what I mean? It's clear I'm on something. You know what I mean? Like, but like some of the stuff you're watching, you're just like, oh my god, please shut up. Like, that's why I don't really watch it. I kind of watch the stuff back with that. But I remember watching somebody tweeted a Glastonbury thing, and I was like, oh, brilliant. And then it was like we're playing it, like maybe we're kind of like second from headline at Glastonbury. Like it was like the biggest thing we'd ever done. But at the time, we were in the Cairn. I remember I'd already played with Kieran had played with the Horrors that day during the day. We started drinking about 12 o'clock. We were on at like 20 past 8. Right, we were fucking absolutely twatted. And then we were playing the biggest gig in Glastonbury, and I started to do like a 3.5 minute conversation about flying frisbees that weren't even there. And was talking shit right there. And I remember like the stuff that people were taking for went on. Like, see, now I would not dream of that, right? I wouldn't consider even looking at drugs like before going, like or ever anyway. But see, then it was like just the done thing. It's like you thought you were immune, but I'm looking at these videos going, oh my god, why is my tour manager letting me do that? Why is the manager not pulling it off the TV? Like, why we're playing such a big fucking huge crowd? Why am I going for that fucking fifth harmony octave at the end of it? Like, why God, why? I remember coming off thinking that was the greatest gig we've ever played, and everyone's like high-fiving and fucking the record company's here, and it's like, yes, we've done it. And you watch it and it's fucking mental. It's like shite. But I mean, people at the time, people liked that. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't a perfection thing. Now on the radio, you kind of hear stuff on the radio like that's no perfect. Do you know what I mean? Everything's. And I remember back in the day, people would go, "Oh, that's auto-tune." But now they've got this thing where it's got to be like sound like that auto-tune thing, or it's not going to get played. Do you know what I mean?
Looking back at the early days, Carl, did you feel like part of a community of bands. I guess that's what we're kind of looking at with this podcast, whether there was like a community feel to all the bands back then that were helping each other out kind of thing.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, with boys like the Paddingtons, and there was a few bands back in the day where there was another band from Leeds that we used to kick a bit with called Jack Afro, and there was Larkin Love, and but especially in Dundee, like Tom, you probably know these. Remember the Law Boys in that? Remember the Law?
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
like them.
A couple of times, I think.
Yeah, there was loads of people, but I remember being in the Welly Club watching the Law, and they used to support us, and they were like, kind of every gig they'd play, it was like you'd sit and watch, and it's not like nowadays if a band's supporting you'd be like 3 bands on you, but I maybe catch them. Do you know what I mean? But back in the day, you had to catch each other's bands. It wasn't like I might catch them. It was like you were getting a free gig every night. You know what I mean? After like before or after your gig, it was like everyone like really cared about it. There was a few bands that I didn't like. I mean, there was always I actually liked the Clarksons, but like they weren't my cup of tea. But I did like them. I thought they were a good band. But then NME tried to like cause a fight between us, like the Clarksons, because there was like the rock and then the indie, the rock and then the rave thing, and then there was loads of that going on. NME caused a lot of shit in that, but apart from that, like it was a class time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and obviously that links in quite well to the story I sent you from last week's podcast from Forward Russia, which I know you listened to, where they basically said you orchestrated a bunch of kids to throw some veg at them on stage. What's your comment on that?
I'm pretty sure that's a load of shit.
Right.
Or a load of veg, whatever they call it. But I remember that night. I remember so we were, as I was saying before, when I was saying like when we went to see Tom's band, like when we see the Paddingtons, it was like it was a big turnaround for us. Like, because Kieran had been going to see them anyway, but I was the first time I saw him in Edinburgh. I was like, fuck me, that is mental. Like, just the sound, it was fucking so loud, and I was like, this is. And I read about them in the NME, and I was like, this is NME. So like meeting the first NME band I actually met was Forward Russia, and we were like, fuck, we're supporting them. This is crazy. And so we were like, oh yes, we'll get our wee dressing room, and that's going to be official. We're actually going to be playing an official gig. You know what I mean? It was like a big thing. We went in and like, no, like you can't come in here. This is our dressing room. This is our dressing room. And we were like, sorry, what? They're like, no, you're not coming in. This is our dressing room. That was convincing, like. But I remember I was kind of like, whatever. I'll go and buy a beer downstairs. But I think the word spread, and we used to go about with like a posse, if you will. Like there was like fucking 40 odd people like were with at all times, and it was like just crazy to know that like we were in a gang along, but they followed me everywhere to every gig, and they'd go on a bus as like every band did back then. And I remember they were on stage and we played, and I remember just we were like, and I was like, "Cause come here, doing a wee bit of sniffing and a wee bit of beer," and like they were arseholes, like they were arseholes, and then I spread around the group, and everyone was like, "Oh, fucking arseholes," and then the whole venue was like, "They're arseholes." But they'd sold it the gigs. You know what I mean? It was like, so they couldn't have been that much arseholes, but we were like, we went to the toilet, and I never done none of this. But when I say we, I mean all of the people that were on it, and like the Drebra boys, whatever you call them, and then. We went to the toilet and somebody kicked off a urinal, and then there was like we done a sing song in the toilet, but I wasn't singing. It was like everyone singing View songs in the toilet, to kind of rebel against the fact that they wouldn't let me in my dressing room, like just while they were on stage to make us feel better. I don't know, but even then it was like that was another thing. The NME made that a bigger deal than it was, and then I heard that boy speaking about it on it, saying. I don't know what they were, like maybe 14, 15, but I was like, or like fucking 18, you know what I mean, 19. But I know he was trying to get me digging, but that was years ago, you know what I mean? But it's funny. But I mean, that became a story, like, why'd you hate Forward Russia so much? And it was like, but Kieran would always get a beat in his bonnet and go, well, I'll fucking tell you how. Because they never let me in their fucking dressing room, but they were treating us like scumbags. And we treat every band with fucking the greatest respect. We'll let anybody in the dressing room, and we did. We were always like very. That's what I was saying earlier on, Tom. It was always like the gig wasn't even the thing. It was like actually going about and meeting new people and going to this. And when you went to the city to play it again, you'd be like, "Oh, there's my boy.
Yeah, definitely. And like the whole dressing room thing as well. Like we didn't ever give a shit about that either. It was like whoever's supporting, like everybody get in one room and we have a party in it. You know,
exactly.
Everybody share the rider. Like who gives a fuck at the end of the day?
Exactly, man. And that's the thing. I mean, like, that's happened loads of places. I mean, there's been a few places that we've played, and there's been like stories of us stealing writer. It's like there was a thing when we played Aberdeen like in 2017, and like this venue, it was like a sold out gig 3 nights in a row. And like one of the managers was like, "Oh, fucking them View boys have been at it again. They've stuffed fucking cans of Tennent's down the toilet in the girls' bathroom." It's like, well, for one, who the fuck drinks Tennent's lager anymore, right? Honestly, like, fucking hell, we're into the IPAs, get a wee bit fucking grown up. Like, but why would we go into the girls' toilet and stuff it down? And why? And it's like, but you don't even give Tennent's on the rider, so like, how could it be us? And there's loads of shit goes around. I remember we played with the Cortiners in Glasgow. And then their tour manager was like, "Oh, you've been nicking the Cortiners beer." And I was like, "Well, look at our fridge. We've got like a fucking crate of it, and we've got 3 litre of vodka and 3 litre of fucking whiskey there. Why would we go into their room?" I was like, "Have you maybe think outside the box? It's maybe somebody else, know us." I mean, we've always been like tarred with that brush of being trouble making thieves. You know what I mean? But it's bullshit.
Where did the fruit bit come? Like, where did the fruit and veg come into it?
Fuck knows, it's news to me. That's what I'm saying. It's news to me. But he was like, "Oh, they started throwing onions and like paper baggies and like carrot hit me right into the bowl." Sorry, right into the bowl. You don't have 2. You just got the 1. And it was like, yeah, and like fucking. I was like, honestly, I can't remember. But as I'm saying, that might have been the posse. I mean, I definitely did not. I've got major respect for bands. I'm not going to stand there and throw fucking carrots at the lead singer, man. You know what
I mean? Oh, that is brilliant.
Something that we ask guests as well, Kyle, is if they've got any Liam Gallagher stories, because you found that he used to like to pick on bands back in the day.
Yeah.
I suppose you got one for us, have you?
I don't know. Yeah, I've got old stories. I mean, it's normally just I kind of we were in Thailand recently, and he told me off for trying to jump off his roof, and I was like, "Fuck!" Went into the pool, and I was like, "Well, why am I getting told off for it?" I thought this was the kind of thing that we do, Ken being rock stars. Me not being as big as him, get me. But like, I was like, "How am I not to jump off the roof?" He says, "You'll fucking kill yourself, you mad, get down." So I was trying to jump off his roof in Thailand, so I was like, "All right, sorry." So that's the kind of thing I do, and then I woke up the next day. This was like 2 years ago. I woke up the next day, and I was like. I was fucking thinking everyone was. Rosie was like, "Nah, fucking nobody's really speaking to, especially like him or that." I was like, "Why? You fucking tried to jump off, nearly broke your back, fucking mad head." And I'm like, "Oh shit, man!" Like, so I thought, but I was might be drinking tequila. I mean, I was fresh out of rehab. You know what I mean? Like, didn't give me tequila then, and I went to do a backflip after this. You know what I mean?
I just remembered a story. Remember in Ibiza? Remember when we were in Ibiza together?
Yeah.
Didn't you play Ibiza Rocks or something?
Yeah, it was at 2006, 7 or something.
Yeah, we ended up getting absolutely fucked in a villa somewhere.
I remember that. So remember that villa, right? So there was like loads of mad stories about the villa. Like,
yeah, I remember. It was weird.
Yeah, because I remember we were jumping off that roof. Is that why you're thinking about it?
Yeah, I literally, when you started talking about jumping off a roof in Thailand, I was like, I swear we were jumping off a roof in Ibiza once.
Very a roof. I think that like there's fucking stories about that. So that guy that owned the Ibiza, I'm not sure if you're supposed to speak about this on podcasts. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's allowed.
There was some sort of mad fucking conspiracy going on, like with the club owner. And I remember being on the bus and some mad shit was going. But I remember feeling dead uneasy after a while and staying at that place, which like the woman was like, "This is my villa. If you don't like it, you can bugger off." And I was like, "Well, why should we?" Like, all of a sudden, I heard you all speaking about me behind me back. I'm not fucking daft, you know. No, we have to get out of here. Stop jumping off roof.
What was the craze with jumping off roofs? Like, we did it when we recorded the album with Owen as well. We jumped off a few roofs there.
Fuck knows, man. It's just what you do, isn't it? It's like, fuck, you're still kids here. What did you record that in Spain with him?
No, we recorded it in Hastings actually. But like one of the things, you know, after we recorded there as well, like we got a bill, like, you know, everything that we'd broken in the studio and all that, like the bill at the end of it, there was a bush at the end of it. There was on the list that we got from our label or whatever. It was, we had to pay for a bush in the garden because we jumped off the house into the bush, like repeatedly, like just kept. I mean, we're obviously absolutely up for our chops, but
that's standard stuff. That's brilliant. I mean, that's the stuff that we miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if bands actually, maybe they still do it. You know what I mean? We just didn't see it. But I mean, I think nowadays, if something that spectacular, like jumping in a bush, was going to be happening, it would be recorded and we'd see it all over Twitter.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure. You know what I mean? If some little fuzzy head man was jumping in a bush, he'd be like, "Get me Twitter! Get me Twitter! Get me on camera! Get me on camera now! I'm going to jump in bush."
I guess to finish with Carl, just we can touch on your solo stuff. Like, are you enjoying your solo stuff at the minute?
Yeah. I've got a whole new band in that, but it's kind of getting fed up. Like, I'm not getting fed up. I mean, wait to go into do a new record in that, but I'm getting I kind of miss the boys, you know what I mean? But I know everyone's doing their own thing, and it's like, but I missed the because I mean that's why I don't really do the whole social media thing, because every time you're on it, everyone's like, "Oh, remember this and remember when it was like that," and it's like, "Oh fuck, that was great." You know what I mean? It's like nostalgia, so I kind of I miss it. But the new stuff's great, but it's like I miss the wackiness and the how erratic and how fast they played everything. You know what I mean? Like on speed. You know what I mean? It's all great. But now it's like fucking ABBA or something. You know what I mean? I'm not putting down my own music. I'm saying it's brilliant, but I do miss the old way. I think it's just because we've been speaking about this so much. I'm just like, oh, okay, I miss the view. But it's like as I was saying when I was in America, now it's more like they're writing songs rather than writing crazy poems. You know what I mean? I think nowadays, like as well, you've got songwriting's changed. It's like it's not like fucking noughties writing where you could write all this mad shit and people would accept it. Now you're like, you can still do it, but and like only if you're willing to fucking not get heard. Do you know what I mean? It's like it depends. It's like I'm just trying to a few new things to see how it goes. But I mean, the songs right now are great. So I think it always depends on what kind of producer you go with. So if you're with somebody like Owen Morris, you'll probably be swimming more or being like canoeing more. So, depends.
You've touched on it a little bit, but is there anything you do differently about that early period?
I wouldn't. I definitely. I mean, I probably would do the drugs because you've got to go there and come back. I wouldn't drink before I go on stage. I mean, I still have a wee one, but I wouldn't get so fucked up. And I would. Do you know what I would do? I would come up with plans myself rather than getting guided all the time. I was always like saying, "Oh, could you get some stuff for us to do?" Like, and the best thing my manager would come up with, like, send us fucking to Shropshire and like fucking at 3 o'clock in the morning to do a gay DJ night. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck, like what? He's like, well, you're getting loads of money for it. I'm like, yes, but I'm going to get in trouble if I've got to stay awake at that time of night and then start DJing. So like, I would like make more plans for myself. I'd be like, fuck, let's do this, and I don't know. I would just thought I wouldn't be as drunk. That's what I would do. I wouldn't be as drunk. Like, I just loved it. I loved being away from home, and I loved living in London, and I loved like just getting fucked up and buying lobster and cooking it. Again, it was class.